Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Coffee with Convery. In today's episode, I'm excited to introduce you to David McKee, the founder of Another Angle Consulting and a seasoned CFO and Controller. David's journey is a unique blend of finance and creativity as he has spent the past decade transforming his consultancy into a global advisory firm. By combining precise financial management with executive coaching, David helps both businesses and artists thrive. From his early days in studying accounting and psychology at the Palm Beach Atlantic University to his mission of supporting artists and overcoming mental health challenges, David's story is filled with valuable insights for career seekers, students, and anyone looking to align their passions with their professional paths. Tune in now as we discuss David's journey and gain practical advice for navigating the complexities of building a meaningful and a fulfilling career. David, welcome to the podcast.
So good to be here. Thank you for having me, Brian.
It's great to see you. We're going to get started with a few rapid fire questions just so the audience gets to know you a little bit better.
Let's
What do you
go.
think is your superpower?
My mindset.
Awesome, mindset.
Yeah.
Favorite subject in school?
Math.
Math, okay. We all started somewhere.
Yeah.
And what was that?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I said we've all started somewhere in our jobs. What was your very first job?
I actually started off in banking. I got a job with HSBC, and it was pretty poor timing that I got into a company that was heavy in subprime mortgages right in 2008, and then everything kind of
Oh,
hit the bubble hit. So it taught me a real good life lesson early of even the big companies can have a big downfall. So it's always be careful where you go and what you're doing, and choose your jobs carefully.
absolutely, absolutely. And the markets and stuff happen around us, right? So, um,
Absolutely.
if you had to describe yourself in one word, what would it be?
Ooh, um, progress.
Progress?
Yeah.
Good. Awesome. So this podcast is obviously for all ages, but young people seeking out that transition from school to work to their first job. We have listeners who are sometimes thinking about that pivot to a new career or reskilling later in life. So it's all about career adventures, and everyone always wants to know from the guests, like, where did it start? How did you get where you are? So maybe could you take like rewind a bit and maybe take back to where things all kind of started for you and your transition into the workforce?
Yeah, you got it. Is right out of college, I was very blessed that I got jobs pretty quickly. The accounting field was always a safe field, and I knew that. And I was always really quick with math. So math was just kind of a natural draw. I was like, oh, accounting, math goes hand in hand. And always wanted to learn more. I was always fascinated by business and really got into it. And my first, I'd say, job or two, I really sat in this pocket of I wasn't quite sure of where I fit or what I was able to do. And I think often it was I was a people pleaser, and I
Mhm.
had that kind of factor to me. And I was kind of stuck in these situations. So, what really helped me transition and get to me to my best points of my career was I was able to write down and really focus in on what I did well. And no matter what the industry, I have such incredible confidence now. I could go to a brand new industry and I know I can thrive in it because my ideas, most ideas, especially if you're thinking outside the box to grow and scale, are really in the mode of you can jump in and really find what you do, be authentic. And it's very similar to what teach in music as well as I keep consistent is the more you're true you are to yourself, you're going to find what you love and then you chase what you love from there.
Amazing, amazing. So let's talk a little bit about career and business growth. So growing Another Angle Consulting from a boutique consultancy to a global firm is no small feat. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced in scaling your business, and what strategy helped you navigate those?
So it's going to be a little unorthodox, but it actually started off as, and I still do this to an extent, is I kind of offer any of the services that I'm able to because it's so diverse for companies. And I had a back injury in 2014.
Okay.
My mom had just passed away, so I was kind of going through like a really rough time. And after 2 weeks of being out with the back injury, I got cabin fever. I needed to do something. So I started an accounting consulting firm. I was like, all right, this is what I already do. I can sit down and really like help local companies save money on what they're currently paying for a bookkeeper. And I had more experience than the people they were hiring. And so I was able to give them a full background, show them how, like, where we're going right, wrong in their business, how we could change it, making plans, all those type of things. And then, so the unorthodox thing that happened with my business was COVID. Is
Mm.
COVID happened, and it was the best thing that happened to my business because it helped me get into the music industry in a way that I never expected. It was purely just I was helping a friend. A friend of a friend reached out. They manage a artist who's in the country music space and had a really big career as a kid, and then kind of a little sputtered. Didn't do as well as he did it when he was younger, and he was going through a really rough time and some really tough issues. And my friend reached out to me, and she's like, "I'm not getting through to him. He knows of you, but not knows you enough. He's like, I think you might be able to break through." So we talked. He was in the middle of like an 8 month block of couldn't write anything. And we sat down, we talked, and then he asked me after that first conversation, "Can we talk again tomorrow?" I said, "Absolutely, let's keep this going." We kept the conversation flowing. And then from there, everything really opened up and developed. And he felt like we wrote 6 new songs, like everything was just
Wow.
there. It just really like it hit. And we were able to just kind of go in. And I didn't do anything too out of the mold, is I really locked in. I'm like, when were the best times of your life? And we located those. And then we really dug into what were you doing? Because usually it's your habits that you're going through every day of why you're living your favorite part of your life or why things are going really well for you and or bad. It can go either way. So I really got into when I had said mindset before of I really think you can think your way into whether it's being sick, being successful, anything like that, that it all starts with your thought. And if you can really zone in, it'll help in a multitude of ways. So I know I went all over the place, but
No,
I full circle.
no, it's amazing. And it makes me think more too about highlighting that whole music aspect of you and even the arts, right? When you think about how you grew up, you were saying earlier, do you want to talk a little bit about that? Like the Broadway and
Yeah.
the, yeah, it's kind of
Yeah,
cool.
sure. Well, my mom was an actress, and then also when she had kids, had my brother and my sister and I. She was then a theater teacher, and it got into like she had that instilled into me. I was up for a part in the music band when I was like a little kid, just because I was a kid who could sing in church. And she really like she that was like her passion, and she really passed that on to me of showing how you can emote in art and how art can affect you, and that you could be having the worst time of your life and you can go sit through a 2 hour musical and it just changes your whole perspective of life. And it really was such a touching, beautiful thing to me that it inspired me to get into music and writing pop music. I don't write Broadway music great, but I knew I could write pop music. So it just kind of fit in that pocket. And I knew how much the arts helped me. So I was like, man, I've always gone with the angle, and I tell all my clients the same thing. The goal is if we can help one person, we're doing something well. That it doesn't matter then like people will obsess about numbers. It's like if you're doing anything that progresses you and you're a step forward where you were yesterday, you're doing something well.
Amazing. And if someone wants to find your pop music, can they find it?
Yeah, it's I've got an artist for my label with Another Angle Consulting. His name is Sevi, Sevii, and he's actually we've never met in person. We met during COVID, and he's from New Zealand. So other side of the world, and we through essentially through like Zoom meetings. It's an app called Discord. Our
Yep.
producer's in Tampa. I'm in New York, and Reed is in New Zealand, and we've become like a little team that like we feel like a family. It's really we get along, we talk constantly, and it really just opened up my mind of like, man, so many people think you need to be in person to
Yeah.
connect, and they really discounted Zoom and all that. But I tried to use it to my favor with everything in my business. That I went from the mindset of, oh, I can only work with people locally to I can work with people anywhere. It doesn't. It really opened that up, and I've got clients in Europe. Obviously New Zealand, California, New York, Nashville. So it's really just opened up so many more possibilities that we can really get something done or progressing even while we're on a Zoom call.
That is amazing. What a cool like flavor to your to your
Thank you.
portfolio, if you want to say it that way. Um,
Absolutely.
so thinking about background psychology, neuroscience, epigenetics is unique, really, for a financial leader. How have these disciplines shaped the way you approach, maybe your own decision making or coaching?
Sure, it's literally changed my life. That I've fully embraced what I teach to my clients. There's not always a connect there. I'm big on authenticity, bringing out exactly who you are, and that will draw you. If it's music, I'll have the artist. It's who are you and what story do you want to tell? Because if it feels forced, or you're saying I'm doing this because I think this group of people will like it. it's not usually going to do well. It's not going to feel authentic. And there's so many times with art or what we do in life that feels like, oh, I naturally like this compared to I feel forced to do this. So I always had the background in finance and accounting. And it was my dad had manic depression and I couldn't understand it. He cheated on my mom when I was a kid. And my mom was like a superhero. She raised the three of us on a salary that I can't even imagine now of how stressed she was every day.
Right.
But she made that all happen, and I held a lot of resentment towards my dad for a long time. And when I finally learned about what his disease was and what he was dealing with on an everyday basis, I realized pretty quickly he was just unsure of what to do, felt back into a corner, felt stuck, and he made a bad decision.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really deeper than that. He loved us, he loved our family, and he really slipped up in a moment of concept, not thinking that that would be at risk. And it's like anything. So many people will get stuck into that they'll label people that whatever you are is the worst thing you've ever done. And the worst thing we've ever done is 1 to 2%. And the majority of us, I find, are people are good and people are kind. And they aren't their mistakes. They are what they learned from their mistakes and they helped overcome from it. So I really embraced that. And then my dad died about 7 years ago. And the last couple of years, we talked almost every day. And it was like, it
Mm.
was just night and day. And he had another shot that he got remarried and he really tried to do things the right way that time. And he righted that wrong. One of the situations that we had when my mom realized they had to get the split and really like separate is my dad tried committing suicide while we were all in the house.
Oh my God.
And it was just brutal. I to this day, I'll joke and I say, I don't know how I'm not more messed up. I should be that I witnessed some of these things, but I really came to it when I dug into what thought is and what we're doing
Hmm.
is that I'm so big that our parents teach us cycles of what we need to break. They pass on their values that their parents pass to them and on down as you go back. And I took it as my dad showed me what not to do. That I hit a point of not maybe as bad as he was, that I didn't have a family, I didn't have kids like he did. But I hit a low, and it was just one of those things that was to get out of it. I really needed to kind of see where I came from, and
Hmm.
understanding where he came from, it made me feel better. Of yeah, I made mistakes, but we're not an equation of our mistakes. That's part of what makes us great.
So true. So true. And thank you for sharing that. And lots of
Thanks.
insights there for the listeners and understanding of maybe others that are going through similar things. One of the things that I haven't talked in a while about on this show, and I really wanted to talk about it with you, is imposter syndrome.
Ooh, yeah.
So many people I know when you actually dig into it have it, right?
Hmm.
At some point in their life or continue to as they doubt themselves. But, as you've gone through, making your career pivots, and really interesting ones too, right? In different ways, have you faced imposter syndrome and how did you push through if so?
Absolutely. I mentioned a little earlier that I had people pleasing as one of my traits. And what's so funny about that is I was at work 4 years ago at an office in New Jersey, and a girl who worked with me was telling a story. And she was like, you know what? Because I'm a people pleaser. And she's like, Dave, you understand. You're one of those too. And I immediately shook my head no. And then I thought about it, I was like, oh, I never realized that. I was like, I always would kind of conform or I would make myself lesser than or try to just fit into a situation instead of overly being myself. And I realized how empty those friendships were and how empty some of those things really were attached to it. And getting into the law of attraction, so many people
Mm,
just think about the manifesting positive side, but I'm big on frequency and that if you're at a lower frequency, you usually are in that mold of that you're not being yourself. Authenticity is the highest form of, according to a Spain test that was done, SPANE, that it could tell the difference between frustration and anger, and it showed that authenticity was stronger than love on that
mm,
scale. So I really like jumped into that, and I've realized that especially like going into the music side of everything, I embraced myself so much is I'm not a big party person. I don't go out much. And I used to like do that to be able to hang out with friends or like keep in touch with people. And now I just really lean into like I do the stuff that I need to want to do. And it's amazing that I've attracted a group of like people in my circle network that weren't there 2 to 3 years ago,
Hmm.
who are so in step with what I am and how I think. And I just attribute that law of attraction of I got to a different frequency and I started bringing in people that really kind of matched that and had similar values.
Really interesting. Thank you. That's
Got it.
yeah, it's interesting how that those laws of attraction bring once you figure out where you want to be, right? So, no, that's
Yeah.
great. Networking, crucial, but it can be overwhelming, and especially for those starting out. What practical strategies have you had to, obviously this piece you just talked about helped you build some more meaningful relationships, but what do you think about that whole approach we sometimes have with networking, and maybe how have you thought about it in the way that you've navigated it, maybe to be more beneficial?
Yeah, it's to value your time. And so many I've run into a lot of people who think that and this applies to many things, but I think especially within networking, of that grinding harder means better results all the time. And it's usually the case with everything. Work smarter instead of working harder. You can get more done, you can have a strategy behind it. So many times when we have a strategy, and I don't mean to over tie this to my mindset stuff, but I think it's the same, is when you have a thought and you put intention on something and you think about a certain part of your body, or you go through, I always like to play this game with clients. I'll say, I'll have a can of Coca-Cola and I'll say to them, what's written on this can? But don't say it out loud. Say it to yourself. And they say it, and I'll respond back of, what was that voice? Do you hear that often? Does that, and I,
Huh.
so many people don't tie that together. They think that that makes them weird, or that like people don't understand that. And so many people have that internal monologue that we're always talking. And it was when you start realizing that, then it tied into limiting beliefs of, okay, like
Uh-huh.
the negative self-talk that we have with everything. So when I really got out of that, and I don't mean to go too far off of the networking subject,
No,
but
no, no, this is great.
it really is full circle for me, that it's the more you really lead with intention and have your thought really focused
Yes.
on something with a strategy, things come easier to you, as you've thought out what could be the problems or what could happen, instead of just kind of winging it. And then when things start going haywire, you want to quit. So it just helps you set yourself up for more success. And in the networking side of it, it's embrace being yourself, know what you're comfortable talking about with certain subjects, and you'll start realizing you'll hear that in a conversation with, like, maybe at a bar or at an event, and you're able to jump into that conversation. And so many people, it's connection. And a big thing that I
Hmm.
like to lead with, which I think ties a lot to the networking thing as well, is it's usually a common phrase that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so find a way to be emotional, and you don't have to overshare, but be vulnerable, and be able
Yeah.
to talk about your story a little bit, because that will lead more people to you and wanting to hear about what you are and what you're about.
Such amazing advice. That's such great advice. Thank you. This is awesome.
Thank
One
you.
thing I wanted to talk about too is because there's always that thing that goes on sometimes in, that inner voice even in my head sometimes.
Yeah.
But the
Yep.
thing is about corporate
Mhm.
entrepreneurship, right? And I
Yeah.
think, well, I don't think I know that what we're seeing a lot of right now is fractional leadership, people doing their own things, markets are changing. People don't feel that some people don't always feel that the corporate is the way they want to go. I'm a believer you can do both or try things out, or if you are that type of person. But what is your thoughts around the whole idea around entrepreneurship, and if someone really wanted to maybe start with an idea that they have to get going, what's some ideas maybe to share?
Sure. Is create a business plan of who's your target audience, what are you trying to accomplish, what is the product, idea, or business, and start with those basics, and then have a basic mission statement of, what am I going to stand for? Really dig into that. I know those are really basic things that you hear a lot, but a lot of people don't put the thought behind of, if you really mean it, it will be able to show that essence of that you care, and more people then will connect with it.
Right.
So anytime that you're starting there, and it's tough now because there's so many different forms of leadership and the ways people are kind of moving, that it become very, and it's an education now, especially in America. Between education and a lot of businesses, it became bottom line obsessed of how can we always make more money or generate something on that. And the most successful people I know do not think that way. It's how do we get the most out of our people? How do we make our people the happiest? And those are the most successful business leaders I've ever worked with or talked to. So it's really finding that same thing of be authentic, be yourself. Don't be going into any decisions with your business trying to say, oh, these people will like it. No, do you like it? And then start them with your friends or local circle, family, and have them be honest with you. Say like, hey, if you don't like it, I want to know because I want to fix it, and have people who will be honest, and that way you can help build your circle because you're going to have trials and tribulations as you have a company, and the more that your circles around you and knows what you're going through, and they'll feel invested if they like are trying sample products or being involved somehow just to kind
Hmm.
of test and beta test how things work. So yeah, I think it's be authentic, lead with that, talk about it with the people close to you, and you're off on a really good start if you lead that way.
100%. And if you think what you talked about earlier around networking and finding the tribe or the different people that there's also entrepreneurs out there that you can connect into groups as well, right? To kind of
Yeah,
bounce
absolutely.
ideas. Yeah.
Yeah, that's there's the whole mastermind ideas. I'm on a couple mastermind groups that it's where your reflection typically, I think Malcolm Gladwell said this, is your reflection of the five people you spend the most time with.
Right.
So choose your circle of like if you want to upward lift your life, try to go to these events where you can meet CEOs or high-end executives of companies. Because if that's what you want to be, what are they doing? How do they act? How do they talk? And it's not, again, copying, but it's finding that, okay, my mom told me when I was younger to be a sponge and learn something from everyone. So I'm like, if you can learn a little bit of something from each person, you can kind of know how a conversation's going and how you'll be able to kind of slide one way or the other based off what's coming at you.
Wow. This is so chock full of great advice. Thank you for it. It's amazing.
No,
We're having such a great session with you and talking through some really key points that people need to think about and reconsider or consider.
yeah.
And I know right now, like the future, I know that's such a big word, but right now, people, world's a little heavy, things are going on, people are trying to figure out, if you had to share with, somebody or here on this podcast, emerging trends in leadership, creativity, finance. What do you think people should be paying attention to in order to stay ahead, or at least in line with where things are heading?
Sure. It's definitely we don't really know where things are heading, and it's trying to find that really like that stable ground of where should we be and how can we be create a foundation that really builds up to what we want to accomplish. So honestly, I've seen a shift, and it's a positive shift in my mind, and maybe it's just who's in my network currently, but there's a lot more positivity about everything. I was around a lot of doom and gloom a couple years ago, everyone expecting the worst. And our brain, it's the whole red car theory that if you're looking for a red car on a road, your brain's going to sort that. And then someone will say, okay, how many blue ones did you see? And you won't know because you were only looking for the red. So our brains are processors like that. It's the reticular activating system within the brain, the
Mhm.
RAS, that it looks for scenarios. So if you're expecting the worst case scenario all the time and you're mapping that out, you're literally creating a roadmap potentially to that worst case scenario. And I don't like to just say positive thinking. This is the reasoning behind it, is the more that you think that everything's going to work out, your brain starts finding ways for things to work out. And it's amazing that if you're in the restrictive space of it's not going to work out, you get stressed. And think about if you
Mm.
were ever called about in class when you were a kid. To read or whatever the case was, but it's unexpected. And you'd see shoulders go up, people would get nervous. And immediately, if you ever realize when you're in that, it's the flight or fright
Yeah,
scenario that you're in at
absolutely.
that point, your eyes are narrow. You usually only see the teacher that's talking to you. You don't see everyone around you. Whereas when you're cool and calm and collected, you see the entire room. So how are you going to see the scenario for a business if you're thinking in the negative and you've got a scoped point of view? Where if
Wow.
it's this with what you're doing, if you're thinking on the positive side. So it's just one of those items for me that the more I see more positivity within where leaders are going to, and they're leading with that because the job market is kind of
Yeah.
settled that you don't see a ton of salary jumps or anything within most industries. So if people are making the same and inflation's going up and it's affecting everyone's pocket, it essentially you're living less than what you were 2, 3 years ago. So people are looking for positivity. They're thirsty for it because everything's just become, if you watch the news all the time or whatever the case, it leads with fear. And if I'm big on think for yourself. A lot of people I feel will just blindly say, "Hey, I just believe this side of things." I'm like, no, think for yourself, keep an open mind, go decision by decision of, I agree with that, I don't agree with that. It doesn't make you different, it just makes you human. And the
Mhm.
more that we can embrace that, it really leans into it. And I've seen this move that when I say the negative, toxic type of leadership that I saw maybe 5, 7 years ago, everything was just so obsessed of everything is more money in this. And really, so many of the successful leaders I'm seeing now, it's how do we help our people? How do we keep our people happy? Because they're not living the same life in a lot of situations. How can we make them happier day to day and make them at least feel better about their situation?
Wow. Well, this has been a huge shot in the arm of passion and thoughtfulness and also positivity from you, David. Thank you so much today. It's really cool to be able to sit back and listen and comprehend everything you're talking through. And I can't wait to share this with the viewers. But I do want to really thank you very much for sharing your
Thank
incredible
you.
journey and your insights. It's been such a pleasure having you
Same, same.
here. And I look forward to continuing our conversations together.
Absolutely.
So thank you again. Really appreciate
You,
it. For our
thanks so much, Brian.
listeners, if you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with your network. You can find us on coffeewithconvery.com, and you can also find us on Instagram for our latest episodes. Be sure to follow us. And this is Coffee with Convery, where we show you that it just isn't always about successfully climbing that corporate ladder. Sometimes it's about building your own jungle gym. Thank you very much.